So hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to the final day of Brontë week. Today I'm going to be talking about my favourite Brontë novel, which, as you have probably all guessed by now, is the brilliant Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. Chapter 1, 1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbour that I should be troubled with. This is certainly a beautiful country. In all England I do not believe that I could have fixed on a situation so completely removed from the stir of society. A perfect misanthropist heaven, and Mr. Heathcliff and I are such a suitable pair to divide the desolation between us. A capital fellow. He little imagined how my heart warmed towards him when I beheld his black eyes withdraw so suspiciously under their brows as I rode up, and when his fingers sheltered themselves and made a jealous resolution still further into his waistcoat as I announced my name. I love Wuthering Heights a great deal, as you can imagine, it being my favourite Brontë novel, and the Brontës as a trio being up there in my favourite authors. This book is just so superb and so brilliant, and it holds such a high place in my heart. I think it is really good and just great. Yeah, so good. I know it's not for everyone. I know a lot of people hate it, and I do understand why, but I love it so much. I think it's a harder book to like and a more difficult book at times than some of the other Brontë novels by Charlotte and Anne, but I personally think it is one of the best things that has ever been written ever, and I think it's wonderful. So there we go. What is Wuthering Heights about? First off, Wuthering Heights is not a love story. I think part of the reason why a lot of people end up really disliking Wuthering Heights is because there is this impression of it in society, which partly comes through a lot of the films, that it is this great epic passionate love story, and it is not. It is a book about revenge. Wuthering Heights begins with a character called Mr. Lockwood writing in his diary about him recently moving to this particular area of Yorkshire and meeting his neighbours. He then gets told this story by a woman, his housekeeper, Nellie Dean. This story, Nellie Dean's tale, makes up the bulk of Wuthering Heights. So Mr. Lockwood has recently met his neighbour Mr. Heathcliff, and Nellie Dean tells the story to Lockwood of Mr. Heathcliff. Heathcliff was an orphan who was adopted by a family called the Earnshaws when he was young. He lived with them, but he always kind of occupied a sort of dubious social position. He had a very close friendship with Cathy Earnshaw, but didn't get on at all with Cathy's brother Hindley, and after their parents died, Heathcliff kind of gets pushed into a subordinate position in the family, and various things go on from there. The first half of the book, Wuthering Heights, deals with Cathy and Heathcliff's relationships when they are younger, and then the second half of the book deals with the second generation, the children of Heathcliff, Cathy and Hindley, and that lot. And I think part of the reason why people don't like Wuthering Heights, as I said, is because of this kind of idea of it being this epic love story, and a lot of the films cut out the second half of the novel, not realising that the second half of the novel is incredibly important, and it really irritates me because a lot of people think the first half is the most important bit, and I'm like, no, it's all about the symmetry and the doubling between the first half and the second half, and it's great. Anyway, I love Wuthering Heights, as you can probably already tell. And there are so many things I love about Wuthering Heights. I love the plot structure, I love that it's a story within a story, and that sometimes you get other stories within that story within a story. I think that's really cool, and it makes it all kind of unreliable and feel a bit kind of mysterious, like you can never get to the truth of anything. I love that there are so many characters, and I don't like any of them, but I sympathise with all of them. And I think the reason why some people don't like Wuthering Heights is because they don't get that sympathy and connection with some of the characters, which is fair enough, because they're not likeable people. But for me, and I know for a lot of other people, you feel this sympathy and this fascination for these characters. Like, Heathcliff is not a nice man, he's not a romantic hero, you would not want to meet him ever. But he is a brilliant, fascinating character, and I think you feel for him at certain points. You feel his pain and his affection, because Cathy and Heathcliff are nasty people. They do nasty things to each other and everyone. Heathcliff I at times feel like some kind of affection for. Cathy is just horrible, really. But their love, or their kind of tie to each other, and the way they interact with everyone is so fascinating and brilliant and horrible but beautiful that for me you just can't help but absolutely love it. And I think it is such a brilliant story, so dramatic, this tale of revenge and passion and drama and horribleness, but in an incredible way. And also this tale of this incestuous tight community where everyone ends up marrying their cousin or the neighbours because there are so few people in this place, and the writing is just amazing. Like, the descriptions of the moors and the descriptions of the characters and the way the characters speak, the description at times of madness, the way the characters speak about each other and their feelings is just absolutely like a joy to read for me. I think it is so well written and so cleverly and complexly written. I studied Wuthering Heights at A-level and at university, and the more you read it and the more you look at the language, the more kind of impressive and intriguing it is, the way certain things are described, the way kind of the supernatural invades like everyday language and that sort of thing, and the way it explores like the violence and the loneliness of this place and these families is done so well and just so cleverly. The way everything is so complexly and darkly put together, the way Heathcliff is horrible but at the same time never redeemable exactly, but he does have feelings and he is human even while he is horrible and frightening. And there are characters that I think you can feel more affection for than Cathy and Heathcliff. I think, again, part of the reason why a lot of people don't like it is that they feel that the main characters are the characters who occupy the first half of the book, especially Cathy, whereas I think if you read it with a slightly different emphasis, then the characters who only appear in the second half of the book, the characters from the younger generation who are like more mellow, nicer, better versions of their parents, basically, like young Catherine and especially Hareton, and I think are much more kind of engaging characters. They are the characters you can find your hope with. Forget Cathy and Heathcliff. The true love story of Wuthering Heights is Catherine and Hareton, quite frankly, and I think when you start to realise that, or you look at it in that way, you don't get as disappointed by the expectations of this big beautiful love. Cathy and Heathcliff, their love is not big and beautiful. It is passionate and horrible. Their attachment to each other tears apart them and everyone they know. It's not a nice book, but it's a brilliant book. It's so brilliant. It's so good. I have nothing bad to say about Wuthering Heights at all. I do think it's not for everyone, and I understand why people don't like it, but for me, I love it. It has a frame narrative, it has unreliable narrators, it has brilliant, horrible characters, it has characters that you don't like but you sympathise with, which I think is just absolutely brilliant. It has this amazing atmosphere, it has this incredible, rich, gorgeous writing. It just has so much to offer, and it is such a good book, and I cannot recommend it enough. I think it is absolutely brilliant and beautiful. One of my favourite books of all time. I love it to death. I could reread it like so many times. I have reread it many times, and I would happily reread it all the more because I just think it's great. And I love like all the symmetry between like the first half and the second half and the way everything kind of clicks together. It's dark, but it's brilliant and it's so good, and I just, yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. So there we go. This has been Brontë Week. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments what is your favourite Brontë novel, and if you have enjoyed this week, if it has inspired you to pick up any more Brontë books. In the meantime, happy reading. Please pick up some Brontes, and happy 200th birthday to Charlotte Brontë, because hurrah, the Brontes are brilliant. I'll be back very soon.